guys who are playing are getting more reps, and they're starting to learn where they're supposed to be. A few weeks ago, Von Bell was one of the most lost guys out there, and he was a part of the touchdowns that were given up in San Diego. Von Bell's not making those mistakes now. Jarvis Bird has probably had his best game as a Saint this past week. So, you look at guys that are doing things like that, and then you play San Francisco. Although they tend to struggle at San Francisco, the guy who kills them the most isn't there anymore. Alex Smith ain't walking through that door. And Chip Kelly his team has all but proven they've given up on him. And personally, I know it's a conspiracy theory, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think Chip Kelly is personally tanking the season in San Francisco. I think he wants out, and I think he wants to go back to college football. So I don't think he's giving his all to that organization. And I don't think he wants to quit. I think he wants them to fire him so he can go to college football and still collect the money. And if that happens, it explains everything going on in San Francisco. Why you stayed with Blaine Gabbert as long as you did. Blaming it on Kaepernick not being healthy, and Kaepernick still hasn't, bulked up to his natural size. It explains the offensive woes, the lack on defensive effort on defense. I just think the 49ers, minus a few guys, have given up, and talent-wise, they just don't have it right now. They're not a good football team. And yes, I know the Saints tend to struggle every now and again with the teams just like this, but I believe Sean Payton when he says his team isn't good enough to overlook anybody. They know that, and Kansas City proved it. I think they'll be ready to play, and I think this should be one of the better games for the Saints.
Yeah, I hope you're right. The thing I think they need to do is, just play complimentary football on the road. When they were on the road against San Diego in the second half, the defense come out and got 3 straight punts. Saints didn't do anything with it offensively, and I think they're going to get their stops against San Francisco because other than Carlos Hyde, and he's dinged up, don't even know if he's going to play. Other than that, they don't have anything. So, the offense is going to get the ball a lot. They need to get on top of them and pound them in submission to make them give up, and they will fold. A team like that that's in turmoil like that, they will fold. And that's one thing that we haven't seen. The Saints just, get up and just put a team away. They need to do it this week. I think they can. Offensively, they're clicking, and once you get them to pull their tent, just run the ball down their throat. Just put the white flag up.
Yeah, I'm not the type to speculate, so I'm not going to hit on the Chip Kelly thing that Brian did. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. Brian is the one who's not afraid to stick his neck out and say stuff, and sometimes he's the hero, sometimes he's the chump. I'll just play it safe and leave that one alone. I will say, though, that San Francisco is, on paper and player by player, side by side, a much, much weaker team than the New Orleans Saints. Their defense is not what they were just 2 or 3 years ago. That whole linebacking core that used to be the potential new dome patrol and that type of deal, they're basically all gone. Defensive line is basically all gone. Not the line that they used to be. They have no secondary to really speak of. And in terms of offense, their biggest wide receiver threat for a long time was Vernon Davis at tight end. He's gone. They don't have the reliable Frank Gore, but they still have a decent run game, and they don't really have receivers to speak of. Most of their receivers are, you put them on like a Saints team or a Patriots team, they're third and fourth stringers. So, they don't have a lot of scary on them at all. But that's what worries me, though, is the Saints have always played down to their competition. They could be the Super Bowl champs, and then they let Tampa walk all over them. Stuff like that. We've done that so many times. I'm not going to sit here and just be like, there's no way they lose this game. They should win it by every means. This should be the first win of the season by double digits. I'm just too nervous to say that.
Here's the thing that scares me, guys, and I think it's almost a gift and a curse that the Saints have youth. The problem with youth, and this is the only thing that scares me about the San Francisco game, is it reminds me the Saints have a college football team right now. They have a freshman, sophomore-laden football team. Yeah, they've got the senior quarterback, but they or the redshirt junior quarterback, but they still have a very college-like feel because of all of the young guys that they have. And the problem with college kids is, if you pay attention, LSU will beat a team like Ole Miss, and then the following week they'll play a team like Vanderbilt, and they'll struggle or they'll lose to Vanderbilt, all because they've overcome the demon or exercised the demon of beating a team that they couldn't beat. You know, if LSU beats Bama, it's almost but a guarantee they'll lose the following week, and if they don't lose, they'll struggle and barely win. Because you've exercised your demon. You've beaten the team everyone told you for years that you couldn't beat and that you were proven not to be able to beat. So I feel the same way about the Saints, and the youth and the inexperience is what makes me feel that way. I think the Saints, the only way they lose the game against San Francisco is if they got happy that they beat Seattle. So if you're happy, because, I mean, there's a gift going on. I want to say it was out the Bleacher Report or USA Today that shows Sean Payton running across the field to shake Pete Carroll's hand.
Uh-huh.
And the way the caption on it was we've never seen a guy run that fast to go shake hands. It's absolutely correct. Because I've never seen Sean Payton move that fast to go shake anybody's hand. It's almost as if he felt like, finally, we've exercised this demon that is the Seattle Seahawks. That's a very, very, scary thing if your coach feels that way, because it's probably going to translate to the players as well. And if anything can make them lose against San Francisco, that would be it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on that one. I said that these are the type of games I get nervous about. I had no anxiety. I wasn't nervous at all coming in to play Seattle, because it's one of those, yes, we can win. Odds are against us, but we'll see how they play. I get super nervous on away games against teams like, say a Carolina Panther or a San Francisco 49ers, games that on paper we should blow out and win by 15, 20 points, that seem to come down to these nail biters where final minute, I mean, do we rely on Will Lutz to kick a 45-yard field goal to win it in the rain or something?
If they don't turn the ball over, they'll win. That's just, don't play sloppy. Don't go out there and, and it goes back to, you said about being overconfident coming out of the Seattle game. Don't go out there, and you have your heads in a different place, and you rack up the penalties, you're doing stupid fouls, you're turning the ball over. And once you do that, you're giving a team that has, confidence, you're giving them confidence, and then it turns into a tight thing. Like you said, you don't want it to come down to a field goal at the end.
Yeah, I mean, and how many times have we watched the Saints throw this stuff away? I mean, now I'm still hopeful, because obviously getting back to 500 really changes the dynamic of our entire division, because we're only about a game and a half behind Atlanta. We're the whole division is close with the exception of Carolina. I mean, we could very well see Tampa being the leaders, at week 17. Who knows? I mean, Tampa, of all people, who I didn't see them winning more than 6-7 games coming into the season. They look like they might surprise me on that. But, I mean, it could go any way with the exception of Carolina. So, I mean, we could be playoff bound in one of our better seasons in the past 3 or 4 years, but still end up with the same record we've had recently.
Yeah, the NFC South, Atlanta's playing good right now, but I watched the Green Bay game. Their defense, come on,
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers went up and down the field on them. And Green Bay's defense, Atlanta went up and down the field on them, but they got some tough games coming up, just like the Saints, I mean, and like you said, it's just a game and a half, if we get to 500, then, just one more one, just keep stacking them like that, and, see where it goes, because Atlanta's going to, they're going to get their losses. I have no doubt about it, I mean,
Matt Ryan's not going to be an MVP, no matter how much Atlanta thinks he is.
I mean, they might get it this Thursday night. Didn't Tampa Bay go up there and spank them at their home the first game of the season? So, they might be a loss in Tampa Bay,
Well, look, we know one thing about Atlanta. They are going to have a monumental collapse. And they managed to scare us a few years ago and get really close to pushing a Super Bowl before they decided just to completely go bonkers and fall apart in the playoffs. But, I mean, they are going to collapse. It might not – honestly, I think it's already started, because they came out of the gate, including beating us, looking like potential – 12-win team. I mean, they were firing on all cylinders, and their defense was doing just enough to let the offense go crazy. But, I mean, they seem to have lost that completely. So, and they barely beat the Packers at home. And the Packers are not who the Packers were 5 years ago. So, I mean, I see them going downhill pretty quickly. I am biased, though, so I cannot just go out and expect people to believe me. I mean, I'm extremely biased against the Atlanta Falcons.
Me too. And look, I don't like the San Francisco 49ers, but I have to give them some props for keeping Atlanta from coming to New Orleans for that Super Bowl. Because, Brian lives in New Orleans. I live in New Orleans. That would have been a tough week walking around with dirty birds all around. So, that was a close call, but I got to give San Francisco props on that. But yeah, they're up for the epic collapse. It always happens. It will happen again.
Well, Brian, I mean, throw me out something, man. Give me an X factor. And answer me this. How many carries does Ingram get back Sunday? Is he able to kiss up enough to Sean Payton to get 5-10 carries, or is Payton going to show what he's done multiple times to different people throughout his 10 years coaching in New Orleans, and he's going to let him ride the pine for a while and be salty?
If there was an over-under being placed right now, I'd put the under at 10 carries for Ingram this week. And when it comes to an X factor in this game, I really think it goes back to what I was saying. This is a game for the Saints to lose. You know what I'm saying? And by that, I mean, it's not that the San Francisco 49ers, they play in the NFL as well. On any given Sunday, anybody can win. We all know the cliche. The idea of it all is that the Saints don't go into that game overconfident because they I guess not even, I'm not going to say overconfident. I'm going to say relaxed. Do not go into that game comfortable just because you beat Seattle the week before.
Yeah.
The game plan that was used against Seattle could definitely be used against San Francisco because you can go out there and you can still play physical with them. You can be the bully, especially on the road. You can chew up the clock because Chip Kelly is going to still want to run his offense. He's going to want to, put 60, 70, snaps in a single game together. He's going to want to do that because that's his offense.
Mm-hmm.
So the Saints can limit that by just being, just be methodical. San Francisco cannot stop the Saints from scoring. They can't. If Seattle couldn't do it, San Francisco can't do it. In fact, nobody in the NFL outside of the New York Giants, and I put that way more on the Saints than I do the Giants, nobody outside of the Giants have stopped the Saints from scoring this year. New Orleans has been their worst enemy. So if New Orleans can play the type of football that we saw them play against Seattle, especially with the energy drink that they'll be getting this week with Rankins and Bro coming back, if they can just use that energy to ride the wave of momentum and say, you know what, it's time to take care of business, the Saints will be at 500 at the end of this week. Starting Monday morning, they'll be at 500 in second place in the NFC South. If not, then, the Saints will be, to borrow a phrase from the late, great Denny Green, they are who we thought they were.
Mm.
They're a team that's just good enough to win the games that they shouldn't win, and it's just bad enough to lose the games that they shouldn't lose.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say it any better. I mean, and I think Saints fans really struggle with that concept, and we've said it so many times on the show. We've gotten so spoiled with that Super Bowl win, and when we were going to the playoffs basically every year for about 5-year stretch with a couple of misses here and there. I mean, and I still feel from those, feel for those days, and I still expect the Saints to win because as long as we have Drew Brees, we have a shot. I mean, the guy's throwing right around 70%. He's on pace for over 5,000 yards again. He's on pace for 41 touchdowns. I mean, he's not playing because I had several people on Twitter try to talk as if, he's close to the end. But, I mean, if you compare him to, say, Dan Marino at like 37, Dan Marino, I think, if I remember right, he went 17-12 touchdowns to interceptions. Stuff like that. I mean, by the numbers, Breeze and the Bradys should be able to do what they say and play to 40, 41, 42 years old because they're that next level type quarterback. So as long as we have that in Drew, we always have a chance to win. It's just, can we start winning enough games for it to really matter? Because I know a lot of people like to quote and talk about how, the San Francisco Giants barely made the wild card and managed to win Super Bowls. Yeah, that's true. But the Giants were more consistent in how they won. They didn't have to have the San Diego Chargers give away the ball twice in 3 minutes